Probably the most important thing I bring to this agency is I'm an entrepreneur. And you got to decide, is that something that you enjoy being part of? Or is that something that concerns you? Because with an entrepreneur, you tend to be in an organization that's always looking for the next thing, that's always on the move. So there's not always the stability and foundation that you would get in other places. And that's a choice that people have to make. And an interesting thing about being an entrepreneur is I realized I was born an entrepreneur. In fact, you know how if your last name is Black or your last name is Smith, chances are in your history you were a blacksmith. Well, my name is Chapman, and it comes from cheap man. We were the Walmarts of our day. We were peddlers that went wagon to wagon on our wagon selling pots and pans. And it turns out we made most of our money selling cheap books, which was soft pornography. So we didn't have the internet in those days, so we had this thing printed, and I guess all the farmers and their wives quite liked it when Cheap Man showed up and they could hide a couple of books inside the pots they were buying. And from my early days, I loved being an entrepreneur. And if anybody's ever read some of the, or heard some of my stories, I remember even being in the lemonade stand business, and my mom selling me the lemons and the sugar and trying to figure out the profit on lemonade, and I was 4.5 years old. I just wanted to go out and hit my neighbors up for some quarters, but it really gave me a sense of what you put in, the risk and the reward. And all through my life, early years, you know, I was selling radio, producing parties, and I really came to love the ability to bring a bunch of people together, try to figure out an intangible idea, and make it work. And not knowing if you're going to lose money or make money was very exhilarating to me. It was like, and I realized I never wanted to be part of an environment where everything was kind of laid out for you. And then my first agency, which there's some, like the Toms and the Marys that we're part of, was Communicate. And it was corporate communications. And this was the 80s when people would think nothing about spending $1 million to excite the car dealers about 5 new models. Or they'd spend $300,000 on a slideshow to launch Colgate with Mint. There's so much money in the 80s. And we produced massive slideshows and videos. We worked with Second City. And very quickly, we uncovered a way to approach the marketplace in such a unique fashion that we became the dominant corporate communication agency in Canada. And we had an incredible run, and we won awards, wowed clients, and our work actually found its way into all corners of the world. It was a very exciting time. But the 80s left, and all that money left, and in early 1990s, we started Capital C. And being that sort of entrepreneur that's willing to kind of try new things, we decided that we did all we could motivating internal audiences. Could we take our learning from that and bring it over and try to find a way to be creative and try to find a way to engage consumers? And so we got together, and I guess Vicki joined us. Didn't have most people know the story. She joined us when I didn't have money to pay her. Tom came over, Mary, a whole bunch of people. I mean, how many people were with Capital C? Stand up if you were with Capital C when we were under 20 people. Just stand up if you're, you know. I mean, it's kind of, thank you. Again, this is the founders of the agency. And I know Kirsten should be here, but she's out pitching her heart out right now up in Unilever. We had no reason for being. You know, it's interesting that we knocked on doors, and every client had a global advertising agency. And every client thought their needs were served. And we had to find a way to create ideas and concepts that were so unique and so big that they had to buy them. And this little crazy agency that really wasn't an advertising agency or a design agency ended up doing things like reinventing LCBO and coming up with Shop the World. Or we created a global brand strategy for Thomas Cook that was the very beginning of CRM and data collection. You know, we invented the story of the Easter Bunny and turned it into a television show and a play and way interactive, way ahead of its time. And that product that we created out of this 9-10 person shop is still being sold in places like South Africa and Australia. And each step along the way, what I found excited me more than anything else is reaching for that rung in the ladder. Just rather than sort of staying in status quo and saying we could do this the rest of our life, what if we grabbed onto something that we really couldn't quite figure out yet, but use the experience and the wisdom and the creativity and the energy of people to figure out. And we ended up inventing new products. We put ourselves on the map in so many different and unique ways. You know, we wigged out the world. We did the hybrid. So many things that we went after, but we never really quite knew how to do. But we really had the power and conviction to convince the clients to take the risk on us.